Hey there, Village Church. Vicki Basinger here. I'm sitting with Pastor Michael Fueling, who just started a 4-week series in June 2021 on practical evangelism. And we're sitting here going through some sermon Q&A. And today's question is a good one, if you're ready.
I'm ready.
We are going to talk about, can I or should I share the gospel on social media? And if I do, can I get out of sharing it with people in person?
Wouldn't that be great?
It would be great.
Right. So there's two separate questions here, which one is, can I share the gospel on social media? And then number two would be to the exclusion of actually like human relationships that are personal, alive, face-to-face, something like that. Okay. So, I mean, the answer to the first one is, it's a really easy answer. Sure. Can I share the gospel online, social media? Yes.
Yeah.
But. But. So let's provide some rules there, and then we'll get to the second one. Here's like a good rule in one of our other sermon Q&As from this series. It was the one on what if my spouse is not a believer? And so do I keep praying for them? And so one of the things that we shared was this really wonderful principle, which is don't be a jerk dummy.
Yeah. So simple.
Right? So simple.
Yeah.
So rule number one, though, is just honestly, don't muddy the gospel with your mean, cutting, like edgy, like controversial stuff, you know, like it doesn't need that. The gospel needs to be kept pure and simple. And I'll tell you, never have we been more tempted to just muddy the gospel with all of our preferences and politics, et cetera. And don't get me wrong, I think it's really important to talk about politics. Yeah. It's a fair thing. Like what's happening in the world right now has real life implications for you and me.
Definitely
enter a year of shutdowns, right? Yes. But the gospel is not politics. I mean, the gospel informs politics, but it is not politics. Right. And so if we're thinking about our platform, you know, the gospel should be kept pure and simple and unmuddied. Yeah. And so don't be a jerk. That'd be number one. And give us another one. I mean, we have a few rules we've talked about, but
and the second one really you kind of touched on, which is, you know, don't bring politics and all of your personal stances on it and, you know, get it really kind of, because that's really what divides people. Yep. If you really want the gospel to get somewhere with somebody, if you want to plant a seed with somebody, you don't also put in like, oh, and this is also what I believe about, you know, COVID, politics, like whatever it is. It's just bad decision.
It's a bad decision. Yeah. So another one is know your audience.
Oh, yes.
Okay, so let's talk about you and me and Keith, our producer. Okay, yes. Our social media audiences are very different.
Very different.
I have thousands of friends. I don't even know most of them, right? And so I have to understand that when I post something, I bear the weight of pastor. There's a spiritual kind of authority connection there. For some that's good, for some that's bad. And like I can create a lot of controversy very quickly, surely by the weight of my position.
Please don't.
I have been very good.
You have been very good.
And I'm very good by not posting.
Yes.
That's what I don't do. So life's too busy. So now for you though, like what would happen if you went online and you did a mixed gospel politics Facebook post?
Well, that would be really interesting. So I've recently purged my social media friends because I'm taking privacy a little bit more seriously now that I have kids. But, you know, for me, being in my mid-30s, you have a lot of people who are around your age who have, you know, fallen into that progressive Christianity kind of muddled liberal, well, I'll call it a mess, but truly it is just kind of confusing for them. So if I were to post a gospel/political stance, it either would rally them like, oh yeah, you know, like you're on my side, or it would be like, how could you? And, you know, Jesus wouldn't do that. And it would really just cause like the comment section to be so horribly difficult to manage. And everybody's got a troll.
Which is number 4.
Yes.
Everybody's got a troll.
Everybody's got a troll. So whether it's the person that you knew in college, who either walked away from the faith or who has always hated the Lord and just kind of has this huge chip on their shoulder. Anytime you post about Jesus, especially if you're pulling in politics that they disagree with, they're going to come after you, and they're going to come after you with a vengeance.
And if you don't have a troll, let me tell you why. Because you've probably chosen your friend group very carefully. It's probably a smaller group. And typically, this isn't exclusive, but typically if you're going to say over 45, maybe 50, you're probably going to have a smaller friend group of people that know you, they looked for you, found you, et cetera. If you had Facebook when you were in college, right? It's a very different world because now you're just connecting with like-minded people, with people with shared interests.
Which is why it was invented. And now here we are.
Totally. Well, what I appreciate about Instagram is Instagram gives you a little bit more control over some of that stuff.
It does.
It's a lot less cluttered, you know? And so you need to think about your platform. You need to think about all that stuff. But like, what was the first one I said? Number 1 is...
Don't be a jerk
dummy. Don't be a jerk dummy. Yeah. I was like, my brain already was like thinking about trolls. Like all these trolls are going through my brain.
Which ties in well to don't be a jerk dummy.
Don't be a jerk dummy, because there are a lot of jerks who are going to be coming after you you, and it's just creating a vicious cycle.
Don't fire back with, horrible things.
Amen. So number 1 is don't be a jerk dummy. Number 2 is keep the gospel simple, pure. 3 is keep politics out of it. There's too much heat right now. And number 3 is just like, you got to troll. Be very aware of that person, because you can have a really good intentioned post that can be hijacked and taken to terrible places because of one troll. And we were just, last night, we were watching a thread just lose its mind.
It was horrible.
From a common friend. And it was like, what is going on?
And that wasn't
here?
the intention of the post.
No.
But you could have called it.
Oh, I mean, I knew it was going to happen the moment I saw the post. I was like, well, I know where that's going.
You really have to know that audience. Know that there's a troll in there somewhere, and you need to know, like, is this what I'm posting actually going to share the gospel, or is this just going to cause more division and more problems? Yep.
So I do have a a bone to pick with what I'm going to use generalities here, okay, generalizations. The majority of people, not all for sure, because there's a few people that are so skillful in the way they handle social media and Christianity and politics and all this stuff. But the majority that I see, excuse me, I think they, like a yawn is contagious. They are not effective. And here's how I would measure effectiveness. So you want to preach the gospel online. Awesome. It's admirable. I love that you want to bring the gospel online. So here's my questions. Number 1, has anybody ever come to faith because of your social media evangelism? Now, I expect the answer is going to be 0 for almost everybody. There might be an exception or 2 out there, but almost everybody, the answer is going to be 0. But there's a follow-up question, and I think this is fair. They'll say, no, but I'm planting seeds. And that is very fair. That's very appropriate. And here's my question. Has anybody ever followed up with you and said, I'd like to talk more about that? So I'm looking at the principle of follow the fruit. Is it effective? Now, in my sermon on June 6, 2021, again, somebody might be parachuting into this from years down the road. So June 6, 2021, my favorite part of the sermon, which I think I can say that. It's not weird to talk about sermons that way.
I liked it too.
Okay. Well, my favorite part of it was the beginning, because you and I were working out in preaching prep. We were working through the good old days when you could do things like you could invite someone to a crusade, a non-Christian. They would go
and they would come
and they would get saved. Or you could give them a tract, right? A tract is usually a small piece of paper, a pamphlet or something like that. They usually have some gimmick, and you read through it at the end. They tell you the gospel. And tracts used to work, right? Remember the one I showed in the sermon was of a $5 bill that instead of giving a waiter or waitress, a server, a tip, you give them a fake $5 bill. They open it up and it says disappointed.
Oh my gosh.
Like hell is disappointing. Trust in Jesus.
Couldn't even imagine being a waitress and getting that.
Oh my gosh. And then there was like door-to-door evangelism, which was really effective. So like now the only person I want to come to my door is the Amazon guy.
Preach.
Right? You come to my door and I'm like, what are you doing at my house?
And
I like people.
You do.
I like to be around people. I like strangers. I'm like, but for some reason, if you try to sell me something, I'm just like, get away from me.
Right. This is like my space.
This is my space. I'll come and I'll hang out with you, but I don't want you to try to like use me and buy me or sell me stuff. So I just find it very interesting. So what used to work doesn't work.
Right.
And it's interesting because if you were to look at social media in the mid 2000s, remember MySpace?
Oh yeah.
You had MySpace and you had Facebook, and they were competing and
big war.
And really, people were just learning how to relate on social media. And evangelism actually was much more effective at the beginning of it. And there's a little bit more tact, especially. There's a lot less vitriol online. But it's interesting because the principle is what used to work doesn't work as well anymore.
Right.
And here's what we know that we know. The most effective evangelism, Barna, Pew, everybody tells you the same thing. It happens in the context of a personal relationship. Which brings me to really the second point here, which is, can I evangelize online, but not in person? Okay. I mean, maybe 15 years ago, I would have said, yeah, you probably can have a full-time job evangelizing online. I don't think you can probably do that anymore.
Not anymore.
To sacrifice the human relational side is to sacrifice, hands down, the most effective evangelism strategy in human history.
Yep, absolutely.
So I would say, I get it. Maybe you're shut in, but there's also a phone, but personal relationships is just going to be huge.
And that's the same way with everything. I mean, you even see it in marketing today. Like what used to work doesn't work anymore. You could just push a bunch of stuff out.
Explain push-pull marketing.
Yeah, push-pull marketing. So when you push marketing out, billboards, advertisements, just stuff that you're shouting at people, like, look at us, get my stuff, all that. Pull marketing is like, hey, I'm enticing you to come to my website and read this article, which I'm going to give you something of value that you would actually enjoy. And then over time, I'm going to build a relationship of trust with you. And then you're going to buy my brand or trust me.
Well, it's interesting because the push is becoming less and less effective and everybody's moving over to the pull side of it. And this is the same with evangelism. It's not that push was bad. It's just that what once was effective is now no longer effective. And you can keep trying it, but if you actually want to bear fruit, there are a few things right now as powerful, especially in an ambivalent culture or a hostile culture to Christianity, than relationships. Period.
And you even see that, with the influencer movement, right? So if you follow an influencer on Instagram and they tell you about a shoe and how great it is, and they're like modeling it in their pictures and it looks great, you're probably going to be more prone to buy that shoe because you have a relationship with them, even if it's one-sided. They might not know anything about you, but you feel invested in their life, you trust them, but it's different than, Vans being like, hey, buy our shoes. So when you look at it that way too, like influencers do have a different opportunity to share the gospel. A lot of the ones that I've seen online do a fairly decent job, and they look to their direct messages to kind of have that, one-on-one conversation. But getting rid of that one-on-one relational element, it doesn't work for anything. Certainly doesn't work for sharing the gospel.
Absolutely.
You just can't eliminate that.
Yep. So our big encouragement is build relationships, be faithful, good friends, neighbors, family members, live for the Lord, and pray that the Lord will open up doors for you to share the gospel. And the most effective way is literally person to person. And again, utilize it online. Just be very wise. Follow our rules. Don't be a jerk, dummy. Keep the gospel simple. Don't politicize the gospel, and beware of the trolls. Everybody's got a troll. I think if you can do that, I think you can
you'll be in good shape.
You can do pretty well. So awesome. Thank you for joining us, Vicki. Next time we're going to answer the question, what is an evangelist? And we're going to go deeper into that to help people understand it. So join us next time. Thanks for being here today.